Well, welcome back to the hot seat. I'm delighted today to be joined at Old Government House by Thomas Pearson from JMW. Welcome, Thomas.
Hi, good afternoon.
So we're looking forward to seeing you tonight at our networking dinner here in Guernsey. It's your first PCD event. Are you looking forward to this evening?
Very much so. I've heard a lot about PCD. I've had some colleagues who've attended before and who are coming. They're on their plane at the moment, on their way over actually. And Old Government House, fantastic location, top of St. Peter's Port looking out. Fortunate enough to already meet some of the delegates for the dinner tonight, and it looks like it's going to be a fantastic event.
Super stuff. So you actually grew up in Guernsey and went to school here. I mean, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your career journey to date.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So my grandparents bought in Guernsey in the sort of 50s, and my grandfather was a doctor in private practice here. And I moved when I was about 5. My father was in the military, and so still travelled quite a lot in my life, but educated here through to Elizabeth College. In terms of career, did some work experience in some of the Guernsey advocacy practices and saw that side of it. And probably always thought I'd come back and be an advocate in Guernsey actually. And I guess moving to the allure of UK and that side of it, and moreover settling down and having a family, I stayed over there, and I've been practicing for over 20 years now in law as a real estate transactional lawyer.
Fantastic. So JMW, we're working with you in partnership on our Manchester dinner. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit, how do you describe JMW and also your role in the practice?
Yes, certainly. So JMW is a Manchester practice founded 45 years ago, and the practice itself has really evolved in the last 10, 12 years down to our recently retired senior partner, Joy Kingsley, and she came in and recognised and acknowledged that we needed to grow the commercial offering. So in the nearly 11 years I've been there, we've gone from 250 people to 750 people. We've opened up offices also in Liverpool and in London. I'll talk about those in a sec. And we've expanded from a turnover of 14 to 75 million. So real growth, but still at its heart, which is lovely as well. JMW still has the same types of clients it had before. So SMEs, entrepreneurial clients who are really interesting to work in, particularly in the private client space.
Yeah,
in that
the engine room of the economy.
They are, and the entrepreneurship to open in different offices in different cities. So London's been going for just over 4 years now. We've got about 170 people in London in 4 years. And opening with people in London, not people from Manchester going down and thinking we'll have a play at this. So really focused within the city and starting to make a really good name for itself. As to my role, I head up the real estate commercial team. So I'm a transactional real estate lawyer specialising in developments within the healthcare and housing sectors. And we work across the country, and a team that deals with elements from freeport work to industrial and logistics to new build care homes to residential developments varying from high net worth ones, high end residential to say 4 units up to developments of 600, 800 units.
Fantastic. And you're going to feature on our Northwest real estate panel in a few weeks, just ahead of the PCD Manchester dinner. Are there any kind of key trends or highlights you'd pick out from the Northwest in terms of the commercial real estate trends that you see?
By all means, it's fair to say at the moment the market and the climate is challenging. That doesn't mean there aren't opportunities. And there's still a lot of interest. So there's still a lot of transactions we're seeing and a lot of movement. Within industrial and logistics, which has been a real growth sector, particularly in the Northwest for a number of years, there was a pause at the end of last year, sort of Q4, but it's back again at Q2. We've got a dearth of stock, so we could do with some more quality grade A stock coming through, but there are still transactions moving through. We're also seeing a lot of movement still in the housing sector, notwithstanding what's happening within mortgage and interest rates. We're still seeing a high level of demand of sites for development for new build housing, both within the BTR sector, so the build to rent sector, and within the affordable housing sector as well.
And how important are international buyers in that ecosystem in the Northwest and investing in, say, BTR or other type projects? Really important.
We see, I'll give you obviously an example which everybody will know about, with the acquisition and the movement of Man City and what's happened there, and the investment that's come into that part of Manchester has been phenomenal. Notwithstanding that, I was actually born in Hong Kong, and so have Asian links and work out in that side, as well as doing quite a lot of offshore work with the Guernsey links. And so the attraction from that side, traditionally, if we wind back 10, 12 years, everybody thought, right, London, I've got to invest in London. And London still has a fantastic asset class, and there's a lot of opportunities there. But it's fair to say within the northwest of England and other areas of the north of England, you get more bang for your buck. So the returns, the investment and what you can get, and that's certainly been an attraction, not just for the markets I mentioned, but also the Middle East as well.
And for the international investors, there's still a strong role for offshore, like Channel Islands and Isle of Man and elsewhere, in order to structure investments back into the UK or to own commercial property assets? Do you still see the offshore world being relevant to what you're doing, particularly when you've got international investors plugging capital into the UK?
I think it is. Obviously, an international investor needs to take sound advice from their tax advisors, from their professional advisors as to the right structure. And we are seeing a proliferation of family offices, not just within the city, but also setting up abroad and giving that rounded advice of what they need. As to the correct structure that's utilised, we're still seeing a lot of Guernsey, Jersey, Isle of Man structures, more so than your BVIs and your Caymans you would have seen sort of 5 years plus. They have very good legislation within those islands and set up and are robust in terms of the look through and that side of it. And so, yes, we are still seeing those structures invest. It's fair to say a lot of them still own historic stock as well that they continue to trade in and continue to manage as an asset.
And in terms of the office market, I mean, obviously there's been a huge state of flux on the office market. No one's got the answer, but how are you seeing property developers and players respond to changing needs in the office? And there's opportunity to innovate there and be a first mover, but how are you seeing it filtering through these changing habits that we're going through?
Well, it's a particular of interest to me actually, because I, over the last few years, have done 52,000 square foot of JMW offices.
Right.
And potentially on the horizon, we've got a stay-go decision in both London and in Manchester. So I'll be involved in that process. So it's something I watch with real intent and interest. I was in the city last week visiting some offices, just more in terms of fit out and how companies had done that. And so it's a real consideration. As to the office investment market, we're still seeing transactionally within our London office, a lot of instructions coming through, a big take up on demand. You've still got deliveries of buildings coming through at high asset class, high value rentals. There's a bit of a taking stock in some sides in terms of the return to the office. In the city, it's a TWT, a sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday approach. We've got within our office in London, generally people are in 3 to 4 days. In Manchester, 4 to 5 days, we're seeing people in. We've always had a good attendance within the office. And I think people are coming back, but there is a more flexible way of working. There is a more liberated way of thinking in that regard. And that probably is more taking stock in the design of offices and how they're looking at. So if you've got a business that's got a lease term date coming up, there'll be a reflection on, do we need as much office space? What's the office space being used for? And it might be that they don't necessarily take less space or renew less space, but it's what they use it for. The office I was in last week, they had just moved in and they have 1,400 employees and they have desks for 600 of them. But within the layout and the design of the office, they could cater for all 1,400 being in the office. It just wouldn't be sat at your traditional desk. So there's just that little nuance and way of thinking. The other thing to say in the wider UK market is some offices that have probably become outdated and an opportunity not to progress, we're seeing our developer clients still look at those from a PDR, so using the permitted development rights to change, and they're coming into a residential use, a build to rent use. And so we're seeing, which is good from a carbon footprint perspective, and that side, we're seeing other alternative uses as well for those more redundant office stock.
And also you're seeing sustainability considerations coming into play. Are corporate clients looking for something different? I mean, regulations coming down the track. Are you seeing that changing behaviours at all?
We are. So we've seen the shift change of your EPC, your fridge sticker for a house now has a relevance in terms of residential and commercial and lettings and what you can and can't let and that grading. But ESG is definitely at the forefront of people's decision making. It's important not just for the businesses, but also from a recruitment perspective. At times when I'm sat on the other side recruiting people, we get asked what our ESG policies are, and people care about those points. So it's important to have them in consideration, and they are points that businesses need to consider and do consider. There also something was involved with a meeting with one of the large high street banks last week, and it's on their criteria in terms of how they consider in terms of lending going forwards as well.
And in terms of intermediaries, you're going to meet at the dinner tonight. There's a variety of people you could work with, from the offshore banks here lending into the UK, the trustees. I mean, what sort of intermediaries might you work with who are based here in Guernsey? Who makes a good partner for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose wearing my real estate hat on, it would be those trustees, those people advising and acting and giving the professional advice to the trusts who own those asset classes. But in the wider context of JMW, as I said, joined by my colleague Ruben, who's a family specialist, and Joe, who heads up our private client team, we offer that full service. So being able to act and liaise with the wealth managers on that side of it, the structures feeds into the family offices, the private banks as well. There's a few different opportunities. So when I read through the guest list and looked at it, I thought, wow, that's a fantastic, real varied list of diverse people and some great opportunities and people to meet. So I'll be taking plenty of business cards and making, it's all in the follow-up, isn't it? So it'll be the follow-up post the event of talking and following up with people of how we can progress and lead to opportunities.
Super stuff. Well, look forward to seeing you later on at the dinner and sharing this interview with our members.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and we're really looking forward to the opportunity to meet the members.